Welcome. Good morning. How are you? Good. Nice. Love the energy. So, welcome to Polkadot Decoded 2023. I'm Jose Rodrigo, Director of Crypto Newslet at Benzinga. And today we're going to speak about enterprise adoption of Web3. So I think we're all on the same page. And we know and we agree that blockchain will revolutionize every industry. But from that statement to getting that a reality, I think there's a huge gap, a gap that must be filled by leaders and builders, like the gentleman we have here, 4 experts in their fields. And today we are lucky to have them and get their knowledge. So I would say let's start with a round of introductions. Maybe Maurizo Beni, co-founder of Aventus Aviation, advisor at Heathrow Airport. Please welcome Maurizo.
Thank you. Good morning, everybody.
Applause.
So, as you can see, I've been around for a while. So I started work at Heathrow Airport when I was 19 years old, and I've been there a long time. I have ran Alitalia as an operation director, then another handling company, and now I work for Heathrow Airport in giving advices on modernized aviation.
Thank you, Maurizo. Then we have Ioannis Vlachos, Commercial Director of Energy Web. Big applause, please.
Thank you, guys. Thank you, Jose. Hi, everyone. Yeah, my name is Ioannis Vlachos. I'm located usually in Athens, Greece. Background, electrical engineer, but luckily enough, even though my training was around telecoms, this is what we share also with David here from Vodafone. Luckily enough, my first project was not a telecom one, but an energy one. So I've been working for the energy sector most of my professional life, and I thought that it will be a very interesting merge to see what can be done at the crossroads of energy sector and blockchain technology. And this is what we are doing at Energy Web, building open source solutions, decentralized solutions to facilitate and promote the energy transition. Thank you, Jose.
Thank you, Ioannis. Then we have founder and chairman of Aventus, featured on the Forbes list 30 under 30. Please welcome Alan Bay.
Hey, everyone. As you heard, I'm the founder of Aventus. We are all about onboarding enterprises to Web3. So, I mean, we have relationships with all of these guys here, sort of partnering or helping build out the technology. We're seeing some really interesting adoption these days, and hopefully we can talk a little bit more about it here, but such a wide variety of use cases. And Polkadot's really kind of enabling that. So it's great to see the beginning of the enterprise market really sort of taking flight.
Thank you. And last but not least, have David Palmer, blockchain lead at Vodafone.
Really pleased to be here. Part of my role has been to get to this point. So 5 years ago, really excited, from previous experience about blockchain, decentralized technologies, Web3, and really exploring how that could be relevant for the telecoms industry and business enterprise. 5 years later, Vodafone have launched a platform that I co-founded called the Digital Asset Broker, which has a Web3 and blockchain engine. Our whole thing is about how there's roughly 320 million crypto wallets, but there's 8 billion smartphones, and we're expecting in the next few years there'll be over 30 billion IoT devices. And what we're focused on is how you can bring the connected devices, the smartphone and IoT, to blockchain, and when you combine them, the sort of powerful use cases you can have in enterprise and business. So that's what I've been doing. So really excited to be part of this discussion. I know Alan and Ioannis pretty well, and just excited about the future, because I believe that enterprise and infrastructure adoption to Web3 is the future.
While I was preparing to moderate this panel, I studied the background in detail of each one of these gentlemen, and I have to say they have impressive background, and it's an honor to be here with them. So thank you very much.
Usually it comes with the age, right?
So if we have to start thinking about the barriers to adopt Web3 for enterprises, what do you think, guys, is the main challenges that we're receiving and the blockers that we actually have?
Well, yeah, I mean, maybe from my side, what we've seen almost across the board is a little bit of the negative narrative in crypto, right? A big point that we're always trying to get across is focus on the technology, not the use case. Because obviously crypto was the first use case, an interesting use case, but many people have got burned. There's regulatory uncertainty, especially if you look in the US market right now, where a lot of major media kind of gets pumped out. So whenever we have a first conversation, it's like, aren't you guys part of that unregulated market? That's, we still got to try and figure out what's going on there. And you really try and push the narrative of, that is one use case, it's an application of this technology, but the technology can be used in a variety of use cases today, as this panel can kind of demonstrate, that are completely compliant and just kind of ready to go, better ways of solving problems. So I'd say that's one of the key items, the negative sentiment around the crypto market.
Okay, Maurizo, what were you going to say?
Well, having worked in the industry for so many years, I have seen so many changes, and I think this new technology, which will improve quite a lot for the airline, for the airport industry, because I go back many years ago where even the pilot used to fly an aircraft with paperwork, like you used to look at the road map. Now everything has changed so much going forward, where you have to look at fuel efficiency, time on ground, cost saving because the fuel's going up. So I find that working with Alan in blockchain, even me, I'm an old person with very little knowledge, I'm learning more and more and finding that there could be a big future for the airline industry and the airports.
Yeah, if I want to expand on the challenges, right, coming from the energy sector, I think energy sector, next to the banking sector, is one of the highly regulated sectors across all industries. And when you are talking about decentralization, blockchain-based solutions, you cannot simply enter, let's say, the procurement department of a distribution system operator or a transmission system operator and simply ask them to purchase some tokens in order to be able to sign transactions. This will not work, will not fly, will not even pass through their legal and procurement department. So providing to the industry the new tools, the new decentralized tools that blockchain-based applications provide, but keeping the traditional procurement process of purchasing, let's say, the services on software as a service or platform as a service model is key, and this is why we're also partnering with Aventus in this respect. So I think usually, utilities, TSOs, DSOs in the energy sector are slowly moving beasts, so it's very difficult for them to adapt to the new requirements of the new technologies that come into play.
Thank you. David?
Yeah, I've had a bit of experience on this side. So I think the first thing is the regulation, right, or lack of clarity on regulation, the perceived risk associated with that, but also at the core, the sort of protocol models, right? So when you're a business and you're, for example, in IoT, you've got huge volumes of transactions. Where you have variable transaction fees, it's very hard to put into a business model and to make a case for it, because business doesn't like uncertainty and risk, right? It freaks them out. So I think those have been two major things. Obviously, there's been a lot of development with layer 2s and ZK rollups and other technologies to try and get some consistency in the transaction fees. But the regulatory position is still very uncertain, especially in the biggest market, which is the US, right? And you find that as a person in a big enterprise, your popularity and the willingness of people to listen to you goes up and down with the crypto market, right? Crypto's high, people listen. It goes down, nobody listens. We did get through it, but there are other considerations, and I think some of it, Alan will go into. But I think one of the mistakes that Web3's made is that, number one, we talk too much about the technology, right? Businesses are not interested in TPS or the infinite things of a protocol. What they're interested in is how can this help my customers? How does this help my bottom line? What are the advantages? Where is the business opportunity? What is the revenue that can come from this? And I think the more we speak in that language, the better. But also, one of the big mistakes is that a lot of the protocols are expecting everybody to come to them in a typical platform ecosystem model. And they're expecting everyone to come to them and build applications on their platforms, et cetera. And the world doesn't work like that. Big enterprises have millions, sometimes billions investment forward spent on enterprise systems, right? So they're not going anywhere. And part of the key to adoption, is how Web3 can be integrated into the technology stack of enterprises. What I really love about so the Alan and the Aventus approach is as a service, right? And we're starting to see Web3 mature in two important ways. Number one is you have what we call permissioned to public. And that is where a lot of organizations like Vodafone have started off with permission blockchains, which I don't believe in, but it's a starting point. And then eventually you migrate to public. But more importantly, you're having a lot of protocols now that are going with public blockchains where you can have permissioned areas. That is very important because security, especially for something like Heathrow Airport and security services and highly risky industries, is very important. The other important side of it, which I was really excited about with Alan, is as a service. So where you have trust as a service, and the benefits of Web3 can be delivered in an API, which can then be mashed up with other technologies from Web3, from enterprise systems, from AI, then you're giving the business and creators the opportunity to mash together Web3 where it adds value to other technologies and applications. And I think that sort of approach is really key. But before it was a take it or leave it, and that wasn't going to work.
Thank you very much. So if we think about the benefits on each one of the industries you work on, how is blockchain impacting in the present, and how do you vision that will impact in the future?
So the way I see it is, first of all, looking around in the crowd, seeing all these beautiful young people that in the future will maybe change the world with this new system. And the airline industry would like, first of all, safety, the most important thing, and storing information. Imagine you're a passenger, you're flying, and you arrive at the airport, you're very nervous. You have a child, you have a pushchair, you have your bag, and you worry about this. And eventually you get on the other side, and it's not right. Then you're going to ask yourself, where's my stuff? If you have this information stored in a system like blockchain, and you go up to the representative and they can give you a direct answer, you will feel a lot more relaxed than if somebody said, I don't know. So I see this change coming through now with Aventus and our platform we're working on, storing information about the passengers. There could be information which the CIA want to know, the family want to know. So I see this future coming through, and seeing all these people, they are listening to this. I hope in the future this will get better and better with the help of Aventus technology.
Yeah, also to follow up on what Maurizo mentioned, I think it's all about secure, trusted, and independently verifiable data exchange. This is also a core requirement when it comes to energy markets, right? So right now, the energy markets from an infrastructure perspective are highly decentralized, right? You have your rooftop solar at home, you have your EV providing electricity back to the grid. In some cases, you have wind farms, solar parks, all over the place. So the infrastructure has been already decentralized. Now, what we're doing with our tools, we're still using as utilities legacy systems. So there is a perfect match between decentralized technologies with decentralized power grid infrastructure. And this is, I think, the big win for utilities. And also, as David mentioned, I think this platform as a service, software as a service model sweeps away any stress that utilities have about fees going up for transactions and so on. So they pay as they use the platform. They pay using the traditional models of system as a software as a service or platform as a service. So I think it's also in the mandate of the European Union that the consumer producer, they came up with the term prosumer, should be in the middle of the energy system. And it's all about sharing prosumer data, sensitive prosumer data, in a trusted and independently verifiable manner. I think this is one of the big advantages that at least the energy sector can have from the utilization of decentralized technologies.
Perfect, thank you. Yes?
Yeah, I was going to go just a little bit more, well, I mean, we see a variety of these use cases, right? So when you're talking about benefits, it typically falls into two categories of what business cares about. Either this makes me more money, or this reduces the amount of money that's going out because it's improving my operational efficiency. So from what we've seen in the aviation sector, for example, in benefits is, at any point in time, you have 5 to 10% of the pods that have the cargo or the mail or the baggage in them, people don't know where they are. And sometimes if they don't know where they are for long enough, it results in having to resend or a bunch of additional work, right? So that's a $2 billion problem for various airlines a year. And with this technology, we can reduce that down. If you're looking at kind of dovetailing on what David was saying about all the IoT devices, right? These 30 billion devices that we're expecting to see, the infrastructure needed to manage the, and I guess this applies to energy as well, right, with the devices. The infrastructure, you can make it more scalable and more secure using a decentralized backend, managing those device identities, managing the credentials associated with those devices. Having a distributed system allows a more scalable IoT infrastructure as well as a more secure infrastructure where there isn't a honeypot. So the benefits are quite diverse because it's general purpose technology to a degree. It's kind of like AI or even your computer, right? What do you use your computer for? Internet and Photoshop, vastly different use cases. But at the end of the day, it's all about increasing efficiency.
Thank you. David?
I mean, first of all, I'll say that I think we're fortunate enough to live in a time where the pace of technology change and opportunity is unparalleled. We have AI, Web3, Metaverse, a lot of technologies coming together, with some pretty powerful Web2 technologies as well. And I believe that the future benefit will be not how you master any one of these technologies, but more how you can put them together effectively to drive value for customers. In terms of Web3, I was writing a paper on this, and it's really interesting, how it has changed the world already, right? We didn't know about smart contracts. Smart contracts can automate business-to-business interactions, but also law, right? In the UK, a smart contract can be law if you link it with a smart legal agreement. You have DeFi, which is decentralizing banking. You've got several other applications linked to tokens and NFTs and digital ownership and fractionalization of assets. So there's been a lot of ways in which Web3 has changed the world and changed the world of trust and automation. If you take that to business and then you say, okay, what is the benefit to business? I think the first one is to move that automation boundary, right? So at the moment, a lot of the automation that we have in manufacturing and wider industry is based on internal automation. So how you can use robotics and other things internally within an organization where you have trust to do it. The blockchain provides a trust anchor that allows you to extend that automation boundary beyond your industry beyond your company to others in the industry and other industries. And that is pretty massive. If you then take things like self-sovereign digital identity and verifiable credential and DIDs, decentralized identifiers, essentially you've then got the possibility to have even more automated solutions where IoT devices link with people, where people interact with people, where they have to start proving who they are, or an organization starts having to prove who they are. And if you look at it this way, if you look at the world today, right, just traveling here, I had to show my passport. I had to show my passport several times to prove who I am, to get onto a plane in the UK to get through here. I had to show it again at the hotel. I had to show payment credentials many times. If I apply for a mortgage or a bank loan, I have to prove my residence. I have to prove many things. Just imagine where you have automated trust in business and for consumer experiences, where essentially that proving who I am, we can move from a trustless world that we're in today, where there's so much business processing and cost, just verifying companies and their credentials and what's happened, to one where that trust is automated, right? Where it's just a credential which is automatically authenticated. That has the potential to change the landscape of business. It has the potential to change the landscape of customer experience and journeys, where that becomes a truly automated activity. And I believe that these things, that automation boundary, and how that translates into the experiences we have in everyday life, that's going to be a massive opportunity.
We're speaking about highly regulated industries like aviation, energy, communications. So what are the regulatory compliances that enterprise organizations need to address while adopting blockchain technology? And is there a regulatory framework still, or needs to be developed? And also, finally, you have international companies. How do we address different regulatory frameworks on different countries?
Yeah, speaking of the energy sector, it's highly regulated. Definitely there are discussions within the major, let's say, associations of TSOs and DSOs in Europe to see how they can leverage this, let's say, decentralized flexibility that is available in the market in order to leverage that and decrease their operational costs and increase their efficiency. But still, this will take time, because as Maurizo said, when you're talking about the energy sector and the power grid, the first thing is safety, right? You cannot let's say, have the luxury of having outages simply because you switch a system to a new one. And on top of regulation, I think one of the missing building blocks for the wider adoption of Web3 from enterprises is the lack of standardization. So especially in utilities, in the electricity sector or in the gas sector, the first question that pops up after, are you related to Bitcoin somehow? The second question actually that pops up is, are there any standards that we need to comply with in order to use your technology? And when the response is no, then you see that a wall is being created between decentralized technologies and the enterprise, because all these big corporates, all these big enterprises are always used to adhere to specific standards in order to install a new software, install a new piece of equipment. And I think those two angles, from the energy sector perspective, the regulation and the standardization, are two of the biggest bottlenecks for the wider adoption of blockchain technology.
Okay. Alan, please.
Yeah, and I would say maybe taking it to the kind of technological level, and I think it's quite relevant, especially given some of the core principles of Polkadot, right? On that standardization point, this vision of kind of breaking out of the silo of any one blockchain ecosystem, having that interoperability between the different blockchains, easily being able to move assets, whether it's identities and credentials or whatever it is, fungible tokens, non-fungible tokens. That structure, at the end of the day, any of the enterprise clients we talk to, they don't care what the blockchain is. 99% of them, unless they've been sponsored, it really doesn't matter to them. What they want is a system with certain technical parameters, right? Is it, can I access as wide a market as possible? That's where the interoperability point comes through. Is it secure? Does it have whatever? Is it compliant with the regulations or my specific policies or whatever it is? So the more you can have this infrastructure be general purpose as a service, interoperable, and not having the kind of different camps as you kind of see in some parts of the blockchain industry, that's a really powerful message. And I think that's one thing that obviously Polkadot has done very well in pushing forward that interoperability across whatever it is, 50, 100 different layer ones.
Thanks. Maurizo?
Yes, going back to my colleagues were saying, safety and regulation is very, very important, because this morning, thinking of the 2014 Malaysian airline 370 disappearing and not having any information, there was no information stored, there was no, people didn't know you were on board, and an aircraft disappeared. That's something must never happen again, because that's why we talk about safety. So storage of, with blockchain of all this information would for sure improve the safety and the regulation. And also if you look, in my opinion, years to come, many airlines will struggle unless they have efficiency, savings, because now if you look, everybody are going from 4-engine to 2 economy engine, long-haul flights, fuel saving, pilots now are flying more hours because the regulation are allowing them to fly more hours. So this technology system will help to keep the airline, which are not subsidized by the government, to survive.
David, please.
I mean, I think this is probably one of the most important factors to adoption of Web3 in business is the regulatory environment, which, to be honest, I don't think any of us have the answer to. As I said before, I mean, the US is an important market. I think the regulatory position there is very unclear, and it may change, in 2 years when you have a new administration there. I think the same in, I think Europe is better. So I think Europe are actively trying to adopt the technology and see how it can be used to benefit some of their objectives. And I think we're seeing that with the EIDAS and the new regulations on the European identity wallet. And there's a lot of new use cases where they're looking at blockchain for cross-border transactions and identity. But I think the real barrier comes when you look at maybe the strongest use case for crypto, which is money, right? Which is currencies. And I think in that sense, you have differing regulations in different areas, China, Asia, Europe, US, Latin America. And there's different, there's just a lot of uncertainty, and that puts business and enterprise off, because as I was saying, anything to do with uncertainty and risk is a negative. How does it move forwards? Well, I think on the positive side, we are seeing some progress in certain areas, and you're starting to see a lot of the banks and big financial institutions are having some adoption of Web3. So I think this is positive. But I think we're a long way off. And this is why I think, baby step transitions using technologies like Aventus, Polkadot, Energy Web, where you have, the security of permissioned, either on a public chain or going from a permission chain to public. But you can then reach out to have all the benefits of public blockchain. It's probably an initial step to get the businesses online. But I think the regulation is maybe it's a bit in the future to get some certainty.
A word that I heard a lot today is security, right? It's super important, not only for the enterprises, but for the users. So you are experienced in getting blockchain into enterprises. How do you enhance users' experience while at the same time getting the correct privacy from them, as blockchain is a public record? How do you both think security and privacy mix together? Okay,
on my industry, privacy is very important, like I mentioned before, storing data of the passengers on board the aircraft. Having data is required, And I'll tell you something very simple. I was asked once a question, what's the difference between a VIP flight and a normal passenger's flight? The difference is the same, because when you're up in the air, you're in the hand of 4 people, which is the pilot, air traffic controllers, and yourself, but the most important, the aircraft. So it's having those informations of efficiency and security to make sure that everybody, when he's flying, is safe.
Yeah, from the energy perspective, I think to answer your question, user experience, yeah, should be transparent, right? The user doesn't need to know, or the enterprise doesn't need to know that they are using a decentralized or centralized system. It should be flawless, it should be easy to use, and it should be, let's say, privacy preserving. It's a very key concept, especially in Europe, with the European GDPR regulation that, yeah, user data, private data needs to be preserved when it comes to their privacy. And also all these regulations, ADAS regulation, digital wallet from the European Commission standard is something towards this direction. Also, we need also to keep in mind that the change within the enterprise is a slowly moving process. And in this respect, I think we should always keep security, safety in the case of aviation as the first and foremost, let's say, priority of any change that we were asking enterprises to do.
I think this is probably a bit of a controversial opinion for being in the blockchain industry, right? But when you're in front of the clients every day, you notice that this vision of full 100% decentralization doesn't really resonate, because there's certain properties that are great about the technology that people want to use, but when the user experience gets to the point of, I mean, when it started the whole forget your keys, you lose all your money kind of thing in your wallet, right? That kind of experience just doesn't work for an enterprise. There's amazing trust in the brand, and you have to be able to have redundancy, fallbacks, all kinds of different options within these systems to be able to deliver the promises you've made in whatever your terms and conditions to your client base. So I think it's understanding how to apply this technology appropriately to give the security benefits, but sometimes just starting as a path towards more decentralization, right? I would say the vast majority of people we talk to are not worried about their customers having their own keys. They would rather provide an enterprise-grade key management service based on whatever, right? HashiCorp Vault or these technologies that have been around for a long time, store the keys securely in their trusted environment that has worked no problem for them for the last 10, 20 years, and then use that to create the signatures and the whatnot and provide the normal experience the customer is used to, rather than getting somebody to download a wallet or whatever. So hopefully we can get to a world where these user experience problems have been solved in the decentralized context, but I think, kind of to David's point of the adoption cycle, that's quite a long way away from being realized. And it's about understanding which bits of the technology can add value today versus which bits are just not worth the battle.
Great. So understanding when decentralization is needed and when enterprise has to take ownership.
Yeah, exactly. And the properties of the technology beyond decentralization, right? They're beautiful properties that this consensus achieving mechanism, the consistency guarantees that a blockchain can create. That property in and of itself is incredibly valuable, even if the keys are all stored by the enterprises for their users in a centralized fashion. So it's just about dissecting the properties of the technology and applying the ones that can actually add value today within the regulatory and the risk framework to deliver that security.
Perfect. Thank you. David, we have communications. It's one of the industries where users are really concerned about their own privacy, their messages, and their information. How do you address privacy and also incorporate blockchain technology into communications?
I think they go together. I mean, actually, if you look at it, blockchain is very secure. And one of the attractions for enterprise is the security associated with blockchains and the fact that you have immutable records and you have distributed records. and you have things like symmetric and asymmetric Byzantine fault tolerance. Prevents man-in-the-middle attacks. That blockchain and cryptocurrency is built around encryption, right? So I think there's a lot of natural, a natural security in blockchain that actually I think is leading the way. And yes, there are challenges to security, outright. So some of the things that we're grappling with now is, is quantum compute, right? And quantum compute, is a challenge to public-private key encryption. It's also a challenge to RSA. And these are some of the things that are actually, coincidentally, are part of the core blockchain stuff. But you've seen already, some of the chains already have quantum-proof cryptography introduced. And then it comes down to where are the weaknesses and what are the issues. So first of all, I'll say that the issue that you have with privacy, so if you talk about privacy and security, and GDPR has been the design, right? And it has been getting consent. And a lot of the Web2 business models, we got great applications, but the price you paid was giving your data up. And we've seen some of the recent announcements or rulings go against the use of people's private data or personal data without their consent. I think what's beautiful about things like SSI, self-sovereign digital identity, verifiable credentials, wallets, is the ability for a person to control their data within a Web3 environment and to give consent in return for rewards, right? I think this is at the basis of actually fueling the data economy going forwards. And that is Web3. Web3 allows that to happen, or enables that to happen. And I think that is how the platform model will go going forwards. From a telco point of view, I think part of the work we've been doing to bring telco and the edge technology to blockchain is to secure the last mile, right, or the last part of the puzzle. And some of the things that we've done, for example, is to bring public-private key infrastructure or encryption to the edge, but also to build bridges from Vodafone, our SIM card, to blockchain, so that we can externally sign. Where you have a device, a smartphone or an IoT device, you can use that encryption on the SIM card to encrypt data from the device to the cloud or to the blockchain. And I think that is the last bridge, because that is where you have the most susceptibility to security. And with that, you can ensure that the device is the device, that the person using the device, is the person. And you really make that bridge. And I think this is critical for the adoption of blockchain. I mean, personally, on our platform, we've got 160 million devices that can now automatically, sign and integrate and authenticate onto blockchain, which is really powerful. So then you start bringing billions of devices into the blockchain ecosystem. And we also have, hundreds of millions of smartphones which can use the same technology. And I think that is the key, how you have physical security at the edge, which then interoperates and integrates with the security you have on chain.
And maybe just dovetailing on that to what my point before, right? This is an example of that user experience being made much better, right? The SIM card becoming the wallet, making it much easier for the user with whatever the hardware secure module, whatever it is that sits on that SIM card generating the signatures and whatnot. And I think the model we will ultimately move to, if you think of it from a game theory perspective, right? We have this nuclear deterrent that is full decentralization. If the world doesn't upgrade and doesn't provide the value back to the person generating the data or whatever it is. So because you have the nuclear deterrent and you can at any point switch to that, it will force the innovation of business models within enterprises to become more customer-centric and achieve that kind of vision of what blockchain is trying to do. And this is just a great example of one of the first steps in user experience. And I would guess, but you can tell me, David, that system, if I lose my SIM card, I can still recover my identity in some shape or form.
Absolutely. We just issue a new SIM card and a new identity. But we are looking at, for some of the use cases, incorporating seeding and other types of social recovery technologies. But this is what we do well, right? Managing identities and the security around it is what we do well. And I think that is the key, how you can take things that work to complement Web3 and not reinvent the wheel from beginning to end. And I think this is the future of how we move forward and take the next steps.
Thank you. As we prepare to wrap up the panel, I would like to know, what are you guys developing? Is there any announcements you would like to make? What are you working on?
Yeah, so I guess from our side, we can talk a little bit about what we're doing, right? So we've now gone through this use case with Heathrow, where we're tracking baggage as it moves around, right? Or cargo pods, which have mail, baggage, and cargo in them. You can probably say this more elegantly, Maurizo. But that problem of 5 to 10% being missing, we've run a test case. We've discussed this with the sort of senior leadership now within the airport. They're very happy with the results we've created, and we're scaling that to the next level. So now it's about using this SIM technology that David was talking about with the IoT devices so that this process becomes automatic, so that the SIM card is reaching out through the IoT device to say, baggage is here, here are the conditions of this baggage, all of that. So this is going to start rolling out now as a next phase across Heathrow and beyond. So that's an exciting one from our ecosystem.
From my side, I just like to say that it's nice to be among friends and family. So I know Ioannis and Alan pretty well. In terms of announcements, so we've already had an announcement with Energy Web Foundation that and had we done this 2 years ago, we would have been talking about POCs, etc. But actually, we're live on Energy Web Foundation, which I understand will use Polkadot technology, where our SIM cards can already authenticate automatically onto that network, right? So that is happening, it's live, and we have live devices on that. The other thing is obviously with Alan and Heathrow, again, using a live platform that we have with a live mobile network, an IoT network, to really have that interaction of secure devices at the edge with identities, with the encryption and security, being able to then bridge into the Aventus blockchain with our platform to power these new solutions in supply chain logistics that we're pioneering. So I'm really excited to announce that partnership and the intention to move forwards. And I think it's the beginning of many. I think the aviation industry and supply chain logistics, lend themselves automatically to the provenance and trust technologies that blockchains provides. I think we provide that link to the real world and real world devices and people. And I see many more use cases in the future. But also, excited to announce, through our partners, our relationship with Polkadot. And we want to do more. We want to bring more of our network and the networks of mobile operators to layer ones. We consider ourselves part of infrastructure, but at layer 2. So I'd also like to announce an intention to do more with Polkadot.
Yeah, to follow up on what David mentioned, yeah, we have been working with Vodafone for 2 years now, quite successfully, I would say. We also completed a really interesting use case together with MasterCard as well on green EV charging. We also announced collaboration with Aventus to bring our open source solutions in the enterprise. And you see, in the Web3 world, I think it's all about doing the right collaborations with the right entities. Energy Web is a non-profit, so we heavily, let's say, rely on our partners. And yeah, as a spoiler alert, today we would like, let's say, to announce that we're extremely thrilled to have Deloitte joining the Energy Web ecosystem as a member. And definitely Deloitte is one of the exemplar, let's say, partners that we will collaborate together to create impact that truly matters. Thank you.
All yours, Maurizo.
Thank you. So yes, as Alan said, we're working on a project at Heathrow Airport where we are trying to help the airport to minimize the space and the airline. Where is my equipment? ULDs, where you store the bags, the cargo. Because many airlines lose a lot of money because they get taken off, still registered in manual. It's not registered in a way where you have what I was saying before, where you have your storage. And this causes a lot of cost to the airline. So this will be for baggage, and this will be for cargo, and also for mail. And it is very important because now you could take one of these containers to your house and nobody knows you're taking it because there is no storage or number stored. So I'm hoping with the help of Aventus and these gentlemen, which have joined us as colleagues, that will make it into a better traveling for you guys when you go and you can find your bag and your cargo. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So there's no doubt that blockchain and enterprise adoption of Web3 is a reality. And these gentlemen here are the live example of that. So please, let's give a big round of applause. Thank you very much for your insights.
Thank you.